Immigrations and Customs recognizes the importance of its relationship with law enforcement partners to carry out its mission. In recent years, however, some jurisdictions, however, have refused to work with us, including refusal to honor ICE detainer requests. The sanctuary cities will then take the data, demand that they retain the non-citizen, the illegal, and they don't do it. The sanctuary cities say, we're not holding them for you. Sorry. Even for non-citizens who have been convicted of serious felonies and pose an ongoing threat to public safety. ICE recognizes that some jurisdictions are concerned that cooperating with federal immigration officials will erode trust with immigrant communities. If we tell you that we have criminals here, then they're not going to trust us and communicate with us. So then it's going to be harder for local law enforcement to serve those populations. And I guess what that means is serving the criminals, at least the ones that are embedded in there. However, sanctuary policies can end up shielding dangerous criminals who also victimize those very communities. Do you think those communities want a bunch of murderers running around? Despite the challenges of operating within a broken immigration system, and in the face of an enormous workload and consistently limited funding, more money is all they need, I'm sure. Homeland continues to enforce the law to secure our borders. No, they don't. We are removing and returning record numbers of migrants who are unable to establish a legal basis to remain in the United States, which at this moment is as broad as can be. I think you just download an app, say, I'm being victimized. Help. From mid-May, they say, yeah, come on in. We'll put you in Springfield. From mid-May 2023 through the end of July 2024, DHS removed and returned more than 893 illegals, including more than 138,000 individuals and family units. Now, the majority of all those individuals encountered at the southwest border over the past 3 years have been removed, returned, or expelled. Okay. Now, your letter requests the number of non-citizens illegals on ICE's docket that are being processed that are convicted or charged with a crime. As of July, there were 662,566 aliens with criminal histories on ICE's national docket, which includes those detained by ICE and on the agency's non-detained docket as well. So some of those people are in custody, others are not. Now, of those, 435,000 of the 600,000 are convicted criminals, and 226,000 have pending criminal charges. Almost a full state of Wyoming. Wyoming's about 550,000, 600. Almost are convicted criminals, a full state, and 226,000 of those have pending charges that they're processing. So please refer to the following chart, which we will. It's important to note that detention determinations are made using a few guidelines. So how do we decide whether we keep somebody in custody or not? First, ICE is bound by the law not to release certain non-citizens from ICE during the pendency of removal proceedings, and notes that most non-citizens who are convicted of homicide are typically not eligible for release from ICE custody. Okay. So certain people, they have to keep in jail when they come across. And you would say, oh, like the murderers, obviously. Not so fast. The murderers, sometimes they're typically not eligible, but they might be. So sometimes we release the murderers, sometimes we don't. It's a little complicated. And second, right, what? They're typically not eligible from release, though. Okay. How often do we have atypical murderers being released? Second, in limited circumstances, when that section does not apply, ICE officers may use their discretion in making custody determinations and release non-citizens with conditions. You promise to come back here, right? Oh, yeah, sure. ICE custody determinations are made on a case-by-case basis, and they take into account the individual circumstances, primarily considering risk of flight. Are they going to come back? National security threat and threat to public safety. ICE takes other factors into consideration as well, including whether they've got serious medical conditions, if they are the caregiver for minor children, and other humanitarian considerations. Now, let's take a look at this. National docket data for non-citizens sorted by criminality and the most serious charge category. So we've got all the criminal types, charge types in this first column, We'll look at the various rows. And in the first two, these people are in custody. So on the left side of this red line, they're in custody. On the right, not detained. Not detained. As you can see here, 400,000 that have criminal convictions right there that are not detained, and 222,000 that are not detained that have pending criminal charges. That's over the entire state of Wyoming, full of criminals who are not citizens, who are roaming around the country. That's insane. Now you might say, are those just like criminal speeding tickets? What's going on here? Who are these people? There was one guy who has an antitrust problem, like a friend of Bill Gates or something. I don't know. We've got a bunch of arsonists in, not detained, almost 1,000 arsonists running around. A lot of assault, very common assault, over 100,000 assaulters roaming around the country. Burglars, about 17,000 burglars. Oh, sex offenders, commercialized sex offenders. So they're officially transporting people, all the things. 2,200 plus 1,700. We're looking at 4,000 sex offenders coming in. How about property damage? Oh, yeah, lots of those. And dangerous drugs, lots of those. So we've got about 70,000 dangerous drug criminals now imported into the country. Family offenses, embezzlement, extortion, flight, fleeing, forgery, fraudulent activities, 15,000 of those who've been convicted, other general crimes. But look at this. What on earth? 13,000 murderers, homicide? I guess those could be negligent homicides, not necessarily murder, but 13,000 people convicted of homicide, free, roaming around the country. 1,500 people have been charged with murder, homicide, the elimination of another human, and they're free, roaming around. So I'd like to know from anybody who's a lefty who thinks that this is acceptable. It's just incidental. It's just part of the system. And there needs to be, like everybody commits crimes, and every portion of immigration, every portion is going to have an element of criminality to it. They're not detained in the country. There's 15,000, 14,000 people coming in who are convicted or pending homicide cases. These are on the books. Immigration offenses, basically all of them. Invasion of privacy, kidnapping. Wow. 2,500 plus 850 kidnappers roaming around the country. Larceny, robbery, sexual assault. The grapists are running around here. Trump said that. And I guess they're okay with that. All the people on the left, Kamala, saying the wall is racist and all of those things. It's coming into our communities, all of ours. Stolen properties, stolen vehicles, trafficking offenses. Okay, so traffic offenses, right? Oh, okay, so driving on a suspended license, reckless driving, that's your DUIs. They're all in there. 70,000 of those. That's a lot. And then weapons offenses. Very curious. So you add it all up and you've got 600,000 plus that are not detained. And just compare and contrast those numbers with those that are actually detained. Okay, they can't detain them. There's nowhere to put them. That's why they should remain in Mexico. That's why you don't let them come across the border, because you can't vet them for this criminality. It's lunacy. Convicted criminals. Look, there's 14,000 people who have actually been held. 14,000 people have been held compared to the 600,000 criminals that have been released. And let's look at the homicides. Oh, so these must be like the really bad ones. So they've got just about 320, give or take, homicide murderers that they're keeping in custody, but they're letting out 15,000 other ones. You understand the size of that number? What size of that number that is? Do you understand how much we invest as citizens in our police force, in our law enforcement, to deal with crime that's already here? Not importing this. And these numbers are shocking. I've been in Arizona my whole life, and we see it. Now, you also requested ICE's current detention capacity. Under Homeland Appropriations Bill, ICE is funded for 41,000 beds. They don't have the space through the rest of the year, with an increase in 34,000 in 2023. It's nothing. They're going to have, 70,000 beds, and they've got 600,000 criminals? More than that, right? Add all of that up. It's not even a drop in the bucket, right? They can't possibly. The numbers just don't jibe. Now, regarding the number of declined detainers since fiscal year 2021, from October 1 through 24, ICE lifted 24,000 detainers. Of those, 23,000 were declined by the state and local law enforcement agencies. 1,200 were lifted due to insufficient notice to ICE. Now, additionally, so they wanted to detain people, but the states declined. Now, 20,000 people. Now, 25,000. Now, additionally, the ERO issued 2,800 detainers that were also declined by local law enforcement agencies, where the subject of the detainer was then picked up later. Okay, so even the local cops were like, we're not giving them over to you at ICE because of the local law enforcement and DAs. Now, thank you again for your letter, says Patrick. Should you wish to discuss this matter further, please don't contact us. Or please do not hesitate to contact us. They also say ICE may lift a detainer at any time after it has been issued. The lifting of a detainer is based on the totality of the case, and ICE may lodge another detainer at a later date if appropriate. Now, the circumstances under which ICE may lift a detainer are unlimited. However, these circumstances may include, but are not limited to, criminal conviction and criminal charges. The non-citizen has lawful status to remain in the United States, health-related concerns, etc. All right, so we'll keep you or not copied to a bunch of judges, and the numbers are just shocking, right? It's a full-on criminal invasion. 600,000 people with criminal charge that they know of, that they've been able to identify, that showed up in their list, right? The good criminals are not getting caught crossing the border. They're just back and forth all day, operating, which is in de facto control of certain portions of the border. So pretty shocking numbers there.